She was the first woman professional bull rider to compete against men. In a world where it was rare to even find a woman in professional bull riding, it was unheard of to find one that competed in the same circuit as men, until the day Polly Reich would never climb on top of a bull again. Climbing onto a raging bull could very well be your last moments alive. The average bucking bull weighs 1,500 pounds, and each beast is selectively bred for one purpose: to leap, buck, and spin wildly. This is what makes bull riding one of the most dangerous sports in the world. Every man and woman that climbs into the ring with a bull does so knowing that they could be crushed in an instant, injuring them for life or killing them brutally. A mere 8 seconds on top of a wild beast might sound like nothing, but each second feels like an eternity. And this was an eternity that Polly Reich had a burning desire to experience. As a woman in a male-dominated sport, she was told she had no business being there, but Polly had the guts to climb atop the most ferocious bovines. She wasn't going to let any man tell her what she could and couldn't do. She suffered countless injuries in her bull riding career, and each time she got back up to carry on doing what she loved. Ironically, the incident that took her out of the sport wasn't even because of a bull. Keep watching to find out how her career came to an abrupt end. Polly Reich's spirit could be compared to the very bulls she was riding: fierce, determined, and wild. This is her story. According to research done by Sports Medicine Reports, a wild 100% of bull riders have been injured at one time or another, with 26% of those injuries being bad enough to keep riders out of work for 3 months. That statistic alone is enough to scare most men away from the sport, but Polly took it as a challenge that she knew she could overcome. On top of this, those that do recover from their injuries are usually stuck with lifelong issues like degenerative joint disease, severe arthritis, and chronic traumatic encephalopathy, a degenerative disease from repeated concussions. However, not every bull rider is this lucky. It's estimated that 21 bull riders have died on the rodeo circuit since 1989. Names like Lane Frost come to mind. He was the 1987 Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association champion and known as a fearless bull rider with a magnetic personality. After completing a successful 85-point ride, as Frost dismounted, the Brahma bull, named Taken Care of Business, turned and hit him with the back of his horn, breaking several ribs and fatally injuring Frost. He was only 25 years old, but he's remembered as one of the greatest bull riders of all time. More recently, in 2019, Mason Lowe suffered a fatal accident at the same young age of 25. The talented bull rider was crushed under the weight of a bull and later died from extensive damage to his heart. Legendary riders like these have written their names in the history books with their very life force. So what possessed Polly Reich, a 5'7" lady that weighed 120 pounds, to jump into the rodeo circuit with these beasts? Her bull riding journey started at the late age of 29, an age where most riders are hanging up their cowboy hats and chaps. It was 1992, and Polly hadn't even considered this new adventure in her life. She was working as a dog groomer in Illinois while raising her 12-year-old daughter, Ryan. She had just come out of a 6-year relationship. Her friends decided to get her out of the house by taking her to her first rodeo. She didn't have much interest at first, but unknown to her at the time, she would be a professional bull rider within a few short years. Every event left Polly bored until the very last. The gates swung open as a hardy rider and his raging bull blasted onto the rodeo circuit. The bull kicked, jumped, and twisted to get the rider off, sending him flying backwards and forwards in the process. The electricity in the crowd was almost palpable. Each second, the screams grew louder and more excitable. But when the rider got bucked off with a violent whip, the cheers of the crowd turned to worried gasps. The rider stood up heroically and dusted off his chaps. The cheers of the crowd returned in full force. Every rider, whether they lasted 8 seconds or 3, was admired for the courageous people they were. Just climbing on top of a seething bull takes grit. Imagine letting it go wild while you try to hold on with just one hand. Polly watched this spectacle in awe and wonder. captivated by the dance between bull and rider, a dance that could very well be the end. She left the rodeo thinking something very few people think about bull riding. I could do that. She wanted to live life to the fullest and take the bull by the horns. At 29, most people are giving up on the extreme things they did in their youth. For Polly, she was just getting started. We have to take a second to admire Polly's bravery. Not only was she taking up an extreme sport by any standards, but she was also one of the few women willing to compete in the men's league. This meant she had to be ready for backlash from people with old-fashioned views about what women should be doing. She kept her newfound passion a secret from everyone, including her daughter, and began the search for a mentor. This is where she met Larry Mosley. After being in the sport for 24 years, he had the experience to mentor Polly and turn her into a fearless bull rider. Plus, as an African-American man in a white-dominated sport, Larry knew what it was like to be the odd one out who got funny looks for pursuing his passion. He was willing to mentor her, as long as she didn't waste his time. Every great journey starts with a single small step, so Mosley got Polly started on a basic training bull called Devil's Delight. It consisted of a wooden barrel jerry-rigged to garage door springs. The trainer was mounted at a height of 8 feet to simulate just how far you would fall from the back of a bull. Mosley was impressed that Polly could even hold on, so he agreed to train her. Polly said using the machine was like going through hell, but it was such a challenge that I kept going back 5 days a week. This quote shows Polly's true grit and determination. Even when the going got tough, she still persevered. For 5 days a week, Polly put herself through grueling 3-hour training sessions. Once she had mastered the bucking and swaying of Devil's Delight, she moved on to the real buck and sway of a terrifying bull. Mosley could see her talent, so he persuaded Polly to join the International Professional Rodeo Association and compete with men. There were no specific rules barring women from throwing their hats into the rodeo circuit, so Polly signed up to be the first of a handful of women who have ever competed in professional men's bull riding competitions. In female bull riding leagues, the women usually have to ride for 6 seconds, and it's on a docile steer instead of a raging bull with a temper. With Polly's willpower and desire to prove herself, there was no chance she would accept this, so she went all the way with the men's league. Her first professional rodeo appearance finally happened on the 17th of February, 1994, in Johnson City, Tennessee. This was the start of an exciting adventure that left Polly with a few broken bones and injuries. Just before her first ride, Polly could be heard saying, "I have to begin concentrating. If you don't, you increase your chances of getting hurt," while rocking back and forth to simulate the bucking and swaying motions of the bull. Her first ride lasted 3 seconds, and she ended up getting kicked in the jaw with the massive foot of her dancing partner. To put that into perspective, a bull's foot is larger than the spread of a human hand. Getting kicked in the face by this would make many people quit bull riding on the spot, but not Polly. She still wanted to climb back on and dominate that 8-second timer. She signed up to do 3 rodeos a week with the International Professional Rodeo Association. And then she started to get noticed. She wasn't winning many competitions, but her tenacity on top of a bull attracted crowds like no other rider. Not only did she draw in massive crowds, but she also got the attention of sponsors and media outlets. Polly said that this time in her life was like being on permanent vacation with her daughter. The sponsors paid for her to go from rodeo to rodeo, amazing crowds with her firm grip and terrifying them with her nasty injuries. However, not all of her attention was positive. Not all of her injuries were at the hands of a mad animal. There are some men with such fragile egos that a woman riding a bull better than them is a threat to their identities. They tried to bully Polly out of the sport. While competing on the IRPA circuit, her dog, Sprocket, was targeted and shockingly destroyed. Then, they loosened the bolts on the hood of her truck, so it came flying off as she was driving down the highway. This still wasn't enough. One night, a group of unknown men attacked and beat her up, simply because they didn't want a woman competing alongside them. Polly was used to the pounding of a bull's hooves, so what were the punches of weak men going to do? Her resilience kept her pushing forward, so their cowardly intimidation tactics did not deter her from pursuing her passion. It was around this time that one of Polly's sponsors sent her to a new bull riding school. It was run by rodeo legend Lyle Sankey, who became a close friend and important mentor for Polly. He recommended that she abandon the IRPA and join up with the more distinguished Professional Bull Riding Association. What she found was worlds apart from the IRPA. The bull riders in the PBR were gentlemen towards her and happy to see the rare sight of a focused woman competing on the same massive bulls they did. Some of the riders here became her closest friends. But she also earned more horrific injuries during this time. Polly endured through multiple broken ankles, a broken wrist, a cracked tibia, a dislocated shoulder, and even a broken pelvic bone. All for the sake of her passion, not to mention all the sprains, bruises, and stitches. One of her worst injuries happened on her daughter's 13th birthday. Polly managed to cover the bull, meaning she made the full 8-second ride. On the dismount, Polly became distracted and didn't push away from the bull in time. The bull rolled on its belly, landing on top of the dainty rider, and then stomped on her chest as it got up. The incident left her with 5 broken ribs and a punctured lung. The injuries were so severe that they caused her heart to stop, and she had to be revived with defibrillators. Polly's daughter, Ryan, was her own private nurse. She was already petrified of her mother being seriously injured or killed by a bull. So after this accident, both of them rethought Polly's career choice. Polly said, "When I saw Ryan in the hospital, I asked if she wanted me to stop. She decided that since it was my error, and not something uncontrollable that caused the accident, she could handle it." In another event too intense to describe, she suffered a severe scalp injury leading to a whopping 60 stitches on her head. The most shocking part of this is that none of these injuries ended her career. That happened outside of the rodeo circuit. It happened in Fort Collins, Colorado. Polly was riding a bicycle to warm up for her next bull riding competition. That same day, a football game was taking place, so drunk college students were bound to be around. As Polly was cycling past the football stadium, a truck carrying students drinking a keg of beer came speeding towards her. Fortunately, they flew past, but the policeman chasing after them on a motorcycle was too focused on keeping up to notice Polly cycling by. His motorcycle slammed into her head-on, causing her shoulder to be severely dislocated in the process. Of all her injuries she suffered during bull riding, Polly knew this was too severe to come back safely from. Just like that, Polly's bull riding career came to a sudden halt. It was so abrupt that rumors started to swirl around the rodeo circuit, and many feared that she had died. With her everlasting determination, Polly has wanted to get back on the bull ever since. However, her right shoulder is far too damaged to take the force of a bull rope, but she's considered using her left hand. Perhaps it's better if she stays on the ground for now. So, why did Polly risk her body and possibly her life every time she climbed into the bull ring? According to her, bull riding created an unsurpassed adrenaline rush, but there was more to it than this. Polly didn't like the way female competitors had been treated on the rodeo circuit, and it seems as though she wanted to prove that a woman can do it just as well. She certainly broke down barriers and proved that women could compete in a rough sport traditionally dominated by men. It seems resilient people attract tough times. Before the events of COVID in 2020, Polly was using her boundless energy to work 5 part-time jobs, 4 of which were her own creations. Unfortunately, COVID presented the whole world with a host of problems. Polly was severely impacted by this and found herself in financial difficulties, worsened by Parkinson's disease. In a saddening Facebook post from the 23rd of August, 2020, the Deadshot Girls community posted a GoFundMe page to help Polly get back on her feet. We hope that Polly Reich is back in bullfighting spirit. No matter where she is now, Polly Reich left a mark on the rodeo community. Her legacy lives on through the women who continue to ride bulls in the PBR and other rodeo associations. She truly paved the way for the next generation of female bull riders, and for that, she will always be remembered as a pioneer in the sport. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.